Isn't it about time dads and men had a podcast for us? Somewhere we could go to relieve some stress, help the time pass, and have a chuckle or two. A place for us. This is Word Brings Word. If you're looking for a show with general trending topics and concerns by men and dads, you've found your home. Funny, opinionated, real and raw. This is Word Brings Word, and this is your host, Bruce Jackson.
Welcome back to Word Brings Word. I'm Bruce.
I'm Gene.
Smooth.
AKA Darren. AKA Little Darren.
Ain't little. See, you almost got me stopped.
Y'all got some word on the street today? Anybody got any word?
I mean, Gene always got the word.
Gene, you got some word?
Well, you know, word bring word.
Okay. So I know one big topic that I saw this week. So, you know, the biggest thing out right now, the biggest thing smoking is Kevin Samuels. And for people that don't know who he is, I'm just going to give you a rough background. This is a man that's blown up super big. He's got 1 million plus followers on YouTube, 1 million plus followers on Instagram, and rightfully so. I mean, he's out there speaking to the masses. Now, if you're just now catching him, it looks like, oh, he's just bashing women and he's just coming down on women. But what most people don't know is that he was talking that talk to men first. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not even a little bit, for a couple of years. So, you know, a lot of times when we see people nowadays, when we see people blow up and get big online, we think like, oh man, they got big, but they don't really know the backstory or how long they were doing it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So he's by nature, like his career path, he was an image consultant. But before he was an image consultant, he was in sales, you know, so he was in sales marketing. So he's always had to be about his image and make sure he's looking the part, dressing the part, always kept himself up.
Right.
So, you know, he talks about his past a lot where he had to do negotiations and be around different nationalities and different places, right? So he brings that over to YouTube and we're starting to tell the guys how to dress. And if you're over 35, you shouldn't be wearing this or that. You know, you need to have some suits. You need to have this and that and have your cologne game up. Make sure you smell good. He talks about candles, whatever, right? So what I like about him, before you get into what he believes, what he says, what I like about him is he's always structured, right? Every time he comes on, he's going through the same process, protocol. He's got a topic. And he's like, this is the topic, and this is what we need to stick to. He does like a little monologue where he's going through his notes, whatever, talking about whatever we're talking about tonight. Mm-hmm. Then he's looking to make sure the likes stay up. Now, he's the first person I ever really seen do this so heavy. He's like, hey, hold on. The likes need to be at least 0.5% of the live audience that's tuning in. 15,000 people watching. I need to see 75 to 100 likes or we're going to intermission. He's like, y'all ain't going to pimp me out. I'm like I'm some hoe or something, you know. He's like, I've been over here doing this work, researching, bringing y'all this stuff, and y'all just sitting here and y'all can't even click on the like when that's free. You know what I mean? Now, he's also got a super chat where people can donate whatever amount of money or whatever.
Right.
You got to have a channel membership to be able to donate money and to chat in there and stuff like that. So I like it because it's like anybody just can't be out there trolling whatever, just saying whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
So he's got that structure, and that helps him get the message out also. Because it's like the more likes you get, whether it's likes or dislikes, just the more activity you get, the more the more YouTube says, man, this needs to go out to the masses. Like people like this. Right. You see what I mean?
Right.
So nowadays, so when he was talking about all this stuff about men, he wasn't really blowing up like that. But when he started talking more toward women, it started being like boom. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think really why now, I think it's because a lot of people really don't take that stance saying, hold on, women, you can't do this, you can't do that, or you don't deserve this, you don't do that. You don't deserve that.
Yeah, as a man.
Right.
Yeah.
So one big thing that's happening now is, and you know, this is just the way it is with content, right? It's easy for somebody to take a whole video, take a little piece of it, put it on Facebook, put it on Instagram or whatever.
Right.
So when you see them, people are seeing these little bitty pieces saying, oh, I can't believe he said that. Who is he to say this? Or who is he to tell her she don't deserve this or that when it's really a bigger whole part of a story? You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So we can discuss that today. One thing he talks about is like women understanding their sexual marketplace value, right? And he has a certain method he uses to basically calculate it. And from his perspective, and what he says is a lot of the women aren't realistic, you know? And then, so one thing, 9 times out of 10, right? So nothing that I'm saying is going to be in absolutes. So if I say women can't this, that doesn't mean all women.
Right.
Right. And he's good to point that out too. He's like, ma'am, that's anecdotal. Just because you say, well, I know a woman that's got this or that, that don't mean for the masses of women in the U.S. or the masses of women across the globe that they all can do this.
Right.
So just because you know a couple or your girl knows a couple, come on now. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So we can go ahead and just put that out there. We're never talking on absolutes on the whole show.
Right.
And we're probably going to have to say that every episode. But basically, he asks them what they want, right? Because one thing he preaches, and, you know, we all go back and watch and you'll listen to the stuff and you'll kind of, oh, okay. He's always like, I deal with outcomes. He's like, men are logical. We don't want to hear about all the hypothetical stuff, all the could haves, all the potentials. What's the outcome? Where are you today? Don't tell me, well, I'm overweight, but I can get it down. No, you're overweight today. You know what I mean? He does a lot of comparing, like, listen, if a man came to you right now saying, oh, well, I'm not making much, but I got the potential to get it, that's not going to be good enough for you. Because you're going to be like, nah,
Exactly.
So why should it be good enough for a woman to be like, well, I can lose the weight, I'm getting in the gym. You know what I'm saying? But it's not popular for guys to say stuff like that. So what happened recently, I think this week, there was a woman that called in and he's always asking them, like, you know, basically, what is it you want? What is your outcome you want? Because he really talks around the notion of a high value man, which most men aren't, you know, and he's got 6 pillars that he's like, they must meet this criteria. He automatically says rappers, entertainers, athletes, people like that, that's got that kind of money, they're not included. He's like, we don't even compare them to the average to the regular working man out here.
Right.
He's like, but, you know, the average, and I can't name all 6, you know, exact, but one is, he's like, they need to be making at least $10,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to be making that for at least 6 years. Not somebody who's like, oh, they just started making it right now and came up. That don't mean, oh, he's all of a sudden high value. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because when you add the fact that they've been making it 6 years, that talks about a kind of discipline now.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, they need to be respected in the community amongst other high value men. You know what I mean? They need to be doing something to the community. Not me over here siloed off like, yeah, I'm making a lot of money by myself over here. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's not doing me or the community any good. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So really, I can't really think of all the other ones, but that's the basis for me, really. You know, when the women are talking about what they're wanting, and because 9 times out of 10, they call in, and when he says, he's painting a picture like, okay, what is it you want? Most of them are saying, I want to be married. Okay. What do you want, any kids, or do you have any kids now? And the most time they may have a kid or 2 or 3 already. And they're saying, well, I'll have another one if the man wants it. Sometimes there's tension there because they're saying like, no, I don't want no more. And he's just like, oh, well, then already, then, you know,
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But sometimes they're like, well, okay, yeah, whatever. They get to the next point. It was okay. How much of the household bills do you want to have to be responsible for? Not, well, I will pay this or I'll try to. No, have to, meaning you're putting this on your back regardless. Even if you're pregnant, even after you have these kids, you are willing to do this. You know what I mean? And he's trying to paint that whole picture because he's saying, now when you take the kids plus you and the husband and wherever city you're at, this is how much money that household is going to have to be bringing in.
Right.
Now, over half of them are saying, I don't want to have to be responsible for anything.
Of course.
Oh, okay. So if it's you and the man and 2 kids, now you got a house of 4 in Atlanta. How much is it going to cost for that man to be making, since you don't want to have to be responsible? So for this man, what does he need to make for a family of 4 in Atlanta to be able to live at least a decent lifestyle? The kids need cars. We need college funds, credit, and all the stuff. And what you end up seeing sometimes is, most of the time, is they haven't really thought about that.
Right.
Or they'll be like 100,000. He's like, ma'am, what? You know, no, a man, he's going to need to be making 350 for you to live comfortable, meaning y'all's cars is okay. If something happens, we got the money to take care of it, this and that, and all stuff like that. That's when a lot of the pushback comes back because, he really points out and paints that picture and you hear the back and forth to really see you really haven't thought this through. You've got your head.
She doesn't care most of the time, but I understand what you're saying.
But then he points out the fact of all the planning you do for college, you don't do this much for a man or thinking about being married or anything like that.
Right.
Now you'll go through do your curriculum and say, I'm going to need these classes. I'm going to need these electives. I want to get this major. Then I may want to go get my master's in this or maybe a dual or bachelor's in this and da-da-da-da-da. Mm-hmm. That's planning you sit down and think about. Mm-hmm. You talk to a counselor, you do whatever. But, people go through heartache or trouble or drama. They don't go through therapy to get it fixed. They don't go through anything they're thinking about trying to plan it.
Yeah, they used to don't.
Right. So most women are out here just talking to their friends. Mm-hmm. And since the friends are kind of on the same wavelength, everybody's just like, yeah, this is kind of what I want. You know what I mean? And yeah, girl, you can get that. So, I understand it's not a popular thing to say that's not realistic. You know what I mean? And his thing is, why not? Why can't we say what's realistic? Like you can say the anecdotal stuff and say, well, yeah, there is somebody over there that looks like this or that has that got this good man. Okay, but the masses don't. Right. Or he'll say something like, okay, well, you tell me where you see these high value men going out here picking all the biggest women they see and, marrying them and having a life with them. And then it's crickets. He's like, okay, exactly. So even when you say, well, my girl, da-da-da, okay, that's your girl. Show me the masses. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's all the background. So the lady called in this week. She was a nurse making $150,000. He asked her, okay, what she want? It's always talking about some marriage or whatever, right? Want to get married. And he's like, okay, would you have any other kids? If her husband wanted to have a kid, would you have a kid? She says, oh, yeah. If he wants more kids, I'll have kids. He said, okay, then how many?
She has two already.
She has two already.
From previous marriage, yeah.
Right, from one marriage, from one man. So, he's clear about all that, okay. And she's 35. 35-year-old nurse, 2 kids from another man she was married to. She said, okay, when you get married, if he wants to have more kids, how many would you have? I'd have 1,000. Ma'am, be realistic. Ma'am. You see, it's really the first sign she's not really thinking. You can't calculate something that clearly with a big variable like that. So she's like, 1,000. He's like, ma'am, 1 or 2, 3, what? How many would you be willing? She's like, no, Kevin, I'm serious. No matter how many he wanted, I would, ma'am, but I'm trying to be serious. He's like, okay, let's just say 2. Let's just say 2. Because what she don't understand is he's trying to do some calculations to say, this is how much you would have to bring in. You see what I mean? So after that, he's like, so what percentage of the household bills would you have to be responsible? Would you?
Does he question them on the fact that because a lot of women don't even know if they can have kids. They just say they're willing to have kids.
Well, he points out
till it's time, and then I can't.
He points out the fact that he points out their age, and this comes up later where he's like, ma'am, you're already at a geriatric age for having kids. Right. Because all of that goes into your marketplace value he talks about, right? Mm-hmm. He's like, when you're talking about your value, he's looking at their age. He's looking at the things that will matter to a man. 9 times out of 10, they don't understand what matters to a man. Right. They're like, but I'm making this. He's like, man, don't give a shit. Man don't care anything about your money because we can't spend your money. You know what I'm saying? So she said that she wouldn't mind to be responsible for 50%. So then he started trying to paint this to her. Like, okay, ma'am, so do you understand how big of a weight that is? If you are responsible for 50%, if anything happens to you, happens to your job, happens after your pregnancy, kids, whatever, the family's going down because you're trying to take care of 50%. She's like, yeah, I don't mind. He's like, no, ma'am, I'm trying. Okay. He's like, I'm going to give you a second chance. I'm not talking about what you mind doing. I'm saying this is a have to, meaning from here on out, up to 65, and then hopefully you got enough money set back, invested to retire, you're going to be responsible for half. Are you prepared for that? Yeah. He said, okay, fine. Let's just stick with it. Let's roll with it. Now, he asked her, would she be okay dating a man making $40,000 a year? No. Okay. He's like, and how much was your baby daddy making? She's like, he was, the ex-husband. I don't want to just say baby daddy. Ex-husband. Yeah. He was making around what she's making because he's a nurse also. Okay. He's like, okay, so why did you stay with him? Because, I mean, this is one thing I will say. Many times I've heard him say, you need to really get back with them. You've got your kids. They're already making the money. You know them, whatever. Have your counseling, talk it out. Hey, listen, we were wrong. You were wrong, whatever. We should try again. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it ain't like he's over here trying to bash people in the head and just dooming everybody's relationships to failure. I've heard him say this. And so he's asking him, so why you didn't stay with him? Well, he was abusive. Okay. He's like, were you physically abused? She took a second, was like, well, once. Okay. And then this is always his next thing. So were there police reports filed? And I don't remember what he said. Do you remember?
I think she said in that one incident it was.
Right.
She said he was verbally abusive.
Mostly verbally, right? So, and for people that don't know or gets little clips, because people say stuff about this, the reason he brings up the abuse thing is because his thing is it's easy for a woman to say, oh, abuse, and people just automatically just start damning the guy. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
His thing is a lot of times, and there's a lot of women that don't understand this, of how provoking they can be with their mouth and their words. Mm-hmm. And words hurt way worse than the fist. You know what I mean? Not saying that the fist don't hurt. Not saying this should be allowed. But that fist right there and that heals, the words a lot of times don't heal for a long time if they do. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That's why so many people need therapy. It may not just be words from your spouse. It might be from your parents. It might be from a teacher in school, a coach. It could be anything.
Right. This
kind of stuff just builds up and is stuck in us over time. Mm-hmm. So that's why he's always asking. And he's like, ma'am, he's told many people, like, if you didn't file a police report when you were physically abused, I don't really want to count that. Because it's easy for women to press a button and say a lot of stuff. And then if they get hit or whatever, then it's just like, oh my gosh, what was me? You know what I'm saying? So he's had different times he talks about that. I'm going into detail about that for people that may see this video and they've never really watched the whole video of his. You really got to watch his whole videos and watch multiple of them to see like, oh, okay. You know what I mean?
He asked her, and she said that she was doing therapy or had been to therapy.
Right. Now, when they say they've been to therapy, he's always like, okay, in therapy, are you getting therapy from a man or a woman? Because he's like, you really don't need another woman being the therapist for you. Because a lot of women don't want to see someone do better than them. He was like, you need to have a man therapist. Or there's been times when women have said her and their husband went to therapy, and she was like, she just quit because the therapist was taking the guy's side. He's like, no, ma'am, they were pointing out everything wrong to you, and you just couldn't accept it. You were just mad about it. So you're trying to blame that. Right. He's like, you need to get back with the man and go back to the therapist. You know what I'm saying? So, and I mean, I can't say how much of this is true, but he says he has a lot of therapists that he talks to himself. He's done therapy for a long time. He said he gets everything he's saying, he's putting together from therapists he talks to and other men that he talked to that are high value, and they're talking about the things they go through, the things they want. You know, like basically I look at it as like the barbershop talk that guys really say behind the scenes, but they can't really say to women or out here in public. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So back to the nurse making 150. So she said she can't deal with a man making 40,000, right? So he's like, so ma'am, you're basically saying you got to have a man making 150. And he's like, ma'am, you're saying you want a high value man. She's like, well, no, that's not what I'm saying. He's like, ma'am, what percentage of men make 150,000 a year? And she said, oh, well, I think you said around 20%. He's like, how about 9%? 9% or less are making 150,000 a year. That's all races. Now, if it's a black woman looking for a black man making that, the number is going to go down more. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. He was like, so you don't want an average man. She's like, well, I didn't say that. He's like, yes, you did, because you said you couldn't deal with a guy making 40. The average man makes 41,000 a year. That's when you go across the masses. And I think it's hard for people to really take that in and understand it, because we live in a world where we look at Instagram all day where everybody's talking about they making millions. Everybody's talking about this, but nobody's thinking about all the guys that work at this Walmart or work over here.
That you see every day.
Right. You see every day.
Real life.
And they're making it work, but they just don't have it. They're just not making all of the money that everybody online is putting out there looking like they're making. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So he's real good about painting that picture. He's like, but you're saying you can't deal with an average man because you told me you can't deal with 40,000. And he's like, ma'am, it's simple math. She's like, well, no, I ain't saying, ma'am. You're saying you don't want to. He said, you're saying you didn't say you want a high value man, but you're talking about he needs to make 150,000. She said, I didn't say that. He said, ma'am, you said you want to pay half. If you make $150,000, half of that is, he's going to have to make what you're making if it's 2 halves. He said, ma'am, half of 4 is 2 and 2. If you make 1.5, they got to put their half in. That's 1.5. He was like, and then he asked her about her lifestyle. He was like, if you make 150 right now, I'm sure you live with that whole 150,000, right? And she's like, no. He's like, okay, ma'am, I'm sure you live close, right? I mean, you're living close to that. She's like, well, yeah, kind of close. He's saying, exactly. You know what I mean? He's like, don't try to bullshit me. I'm too good at this. I do this every day. That's what I do. Because you see a lot of little snakiness and a lot of like, well, I didn't really say that. Well, you were just this close. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't try to be like that. So he's basically pointing out the fact of you're trying to, like, I feel like you're trying to come in here saying I didn't say high value man because you're going to get shot down fast. But you're saying you want that high value money.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's all about the money.
Right. You're saying that, well, and that's what it seems like. All of them are calling in. Like, nobody calls in saying he can make 60. That's cool.
No one's calling in asking, how do I find love? I'm sure they want
That's what
the
they're
money.
looking for.
They want the money. High value man equals money in their head. None of that says love. I'm looking for somebody that's going to really
money's
be
going to
my
be
soulmate.
important.
Money's important to who?
Like your granddad said, no romance without finance, right?
Right.
So you're not going to have that kind of connection or commonality
saying that
unless somebody's
you get
in the
with
same.
somebody that they can't grow.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm talking about when 2 people come together, it's likely going to be.
Hold up, we're talking about growth now. That's one thing that happens that gets pointed out is they don't really try to get a man thinking about potential.
Right.
They want a man that's already there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then they'll try to push him more if they have to. Because a lot of women call in saying that. Well, we're going through it or we broke up or why. He just wasn't pushing it. He didn't have the drive. He didn't this. He didn't that.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, ma'am, how long were you together? 5 years. Mm-hmm. So you didn't know what you were getting into? You know what I mean? Painting the picture again. You're trying to make somebody be something they're not. He's like, ma'am, if you get with the guy and he's a plumber, then he might be happy being a plumber. Don't try to make him be a plumber with his own business or making him, he's at McDonald's. I'm trying to make him shift leader or store manager. No, you met him how he was. Leave him like that. You know what I'm saying? He's happy with that unless he's trying to grow on his own.
Yeah, that's my point. Like you got people on certain levels and they're going to range, right?
Right.
And that range is going to be kind of finite. Not completely blocked off, but kind of finite. Like I'm at a 8, I can get to 9, 10, and this person over here at a 6, they may max out at an 8.
Right.
But people are going to meet together where they are, right? So,
I definitely agree with the meeting where they are, but it's just so funny to me that I think that you can meet somebody no matter where they are financially and decide whether you want to be with them and then grow together.
Yeah.
Whether it's starting a business, whether it is saying, hey, you could be a nurse, go get your degree.
And that happens more often with younger people than older people. Think about it. The older you are, the more established you are with your stuff, your personality.
That's one thing he points out. He's like, men don't really hit the stride of their financial earnings until about 45.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's telling women, you really should be meeting the guy that you're going to try to be with long term. You should really be meeting them around college years,
right?
In your lower 20s. And then you have time to try to get with someone. He's like, a man should really, he said, if you're dating with intention and dating with purpose, you should be letting them know off the rip, I'm dating because I'm trying to get married and looking for marriage.
Right.
Not out here just riding the wagon, just getting all the bodies.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But what's really been given to the women nowadays is because the households we're being brought up in, mostly single parent households, is like, hey, you need to look out for yourself. Take care of yourself. You don't need that. You don't want to have to need a man. Take care of yourself. So what's really pushed is schooling, college, your money. So they go harder for that. They're not really thinking about the kids, the family, the marriage, the relationships, the stuff that I feel like my great grandma would have been thinking about. They're like, I need to be a boss. So many of them like, I need to be a boss. Everybody's a boss on Instagram. Right. I'm going to be a boss too. I bought a couple of courses. Why can't I be out here making $400,000 a year? Where's my man making that at? You know what I mean? Then they're 35, 36, 37, where it's not safe to have kids. Like, well, I'm ready to get married and settle down. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Some of these women haven't dated in so long, they probably don't even really know how to be social and laid back and have a conversation.
No, they don't.
They're just saying, hey, I'm here now. So, okay, I'm ready. So many of them say, "Well, I was working on myself, Kevin." He's like, "Working on yourself, now what?" You know what I mean? He got a little sounds he be playing. He's like, and so, man, I'm telling you, he don't went viral so many times because he be saying crazy stuff. It sound crazy, but it be real. Like, well, man, we might as well just buy a dog and die alone, because he's talking about the outcome. He's saying you're not going to be able to find a man now that you've got several kids from someone, ex-baby daddy or two. You're 35, 36, 37, or 40. You can't have kids safely now. And you're making this much money because you don't work on yourself and got this PhD. And now you're like, hey, where's a guy on my level?
I mean, you know what I think with that? I really feel like the modern woman has took what the palm people have said to us as black men to do, and they ran and went and did it first, or trying to be better than us. Meaning, like going to school. That's what they told us first before the black woman. She ran and grabbed that and took off doing that. Go get a degree. That's what we were getting told as black men. Oh, when they first took over the jobs again, when we were out there being construction workers, and the palm people were mad because they didn't have them jobs. They came back, took over all them jobs.
You said the palm people?
Yeah, that's what I call them. The palm.
Palm. White. Okay.
Oh, okay.
I knew Darren. I knew this move was lost. That's why I'm like, I'm going to clarify this.
Yeah.
Palm people.
They had the palm.
Darren, like, where they from?
All right, but yeah, they basically went in and did that. So that's why they all nurses. That's why they all went and got degrees and stuff like that. I feel like they literally took what they, to be a man. That's what they did. They said, okay, this is what it takes to be a man, and went and did that. Because, they're saying don't, be a boss, be on your own, be an independent, right? Don't let no man hold you.
So society is saying that.
Right.
The single moms at home are just saying.
But the actions was, we came home from war, whatever, got mad. We was making the money. They didn't own anything. We kick them out the house. They own their own with their babies. They don't have anything, right? The government comes into place and says, hey, we'll help you.
I never saw that. I mean, not saw it, of course. I ain't old enough to see it, but I was never aware that I heard anything like it. What I heard was,
well, you understand that men were breadwinners back then.
I understood. So I saw a documentary that was talking about how it was planned, how during World War II, I don't know if it's Rockefeller, one of the big names, had a thing where they're like, hey, let's get the women on out to the workforce.
Mm-hmm.
There's not enough men here working during war and stuff. Let's go ahead and push them out of the homes into the factory. That'll get them working. And also we can get the kids into the school system faster at a younger age. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
See, the moms are the first teacher for our kids in the household.
Right.
That's where they really should be learning their culture. That's where they should be learning everything. Well, you start putting them in the school system at 5 or 6. Now we can just start brainwashing them, tell them everything we want to tell them. You know what I mean? The school books and stuff change over time.
Mm-hmm.
We can put whatever message we want to put in them and teach them just enough to be a good worker. Not to really have this strong family, not to know your credit, not to understand finances or banking or anything like that, really, that you need to really shoot up and excel. Just to be a good worker and be obedient. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Now the woman gets in the workforce and, you break the homes up, right?
Right.
So back in the day, a lot of our families was broken up with support, like the food stamps, government support, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We'll give you this money as long as there's not a man in the house.
Mm-hmm.
If you need the help, And I remember at one point in time they were going by the houses checking. When I was younger, I remember that people being like, "Well, if ain't nobody else in the house, okay." You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So even if you had to, like he's here, but go hide or whatever and stuff,
right.
Even if you had to do that, you got kids growing up in this environment,
right?
Yeah.
So then the single families turn into putting more emphasis on the woman, telling her you need to go be this and this. And I heard it said one time, and I was like, dang, that's deep. They were like, single family homes, mostly that's the mom, right? That goes without saying.
Right.
Again, anecdotal. There's some single parent dads who's out here raising these kids on their own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's going to be the single woman.
Right.
Most of the time, a single woman is raising a weak man and a strong woman.
Right.
Because she's trying to make the woman like she's trying to be.
Mm-hmm.
You need to do this. You don't need a man for nothing. You don't need da-da-da-da-da. Then society, now when they grow up, society's like, man, these men soft out here.
Hello.
Well, look at this, how they were brought up. This is how they were made. You know what I mean?
I tell girls that constantly, like, your mama is what raised these men out here. whoever your mama is, that's who raised the men that you're looking for, that you feel that are not equipped to handle today's society. Your
Right.
mama raises. I keep telling that. Like, go talk to your mama. See what happened.
So back to the nurse. She finally was like, okay, Kevin, so you're saying that I don't qualify for one of these high value men or somebody like that making this much money. What do you think I qualify for? This is when it starts to get comical. Because the man's too good, because he's like, he knows he's got a million eyes on him. He's not about to just be like, boom. You know, even though he can see him on the little video chat, he can see what you look like. He's like, okay, ma'am, where would you rank yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? Straight out of the shower or waking up in the morning, no makeup on, nothing, just based off your looks. Now, women don't understand the first thing a guy cares about is looks. I don't care if you're 20 or if we're 45. The first thing a man is seeing and thinks about is the looks, right? He's like, and you can't use 7. 1 to 10, can't use 7. Because 7 is the safe number that most people would pick. 7, I'm not saying I'm too high. 7, I'm not saying I'm low either. So you can't say 7. And he's just, wait. She said a 9. He just sit there for a second, looking like, ma'am.
That was before he gave the scale. Then he gave the scale.
Right. He always asks. He always asks first, because he's like, I'm trying to see where your head is at. He said, so where do you think you're at? She said a 9.
Most women don't say that, right? Because
they all die.
Hold on. That's the point.
I feel good about myself.
That's
I'm gonna say 9.
They all die.
That's the point, Darren. He's pointing this out, and he said, so ma'am, you're a 9. Okay. If you're a 9, ma'am, who is a 10? She's like, Beyonce. He's like, okay, so he was like, ma'am, you're not a 9. He's like, ma'am, you're not a 9. He said, Beyonce's an 8. He's like, Kelly Rowland is a 9. Rihanna would be a 10. You know. So now he's giving the scale.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, so ma'am, where you think you're at? She's like, a 9. He's like, when have you had 9 outcomes? Again, outcomes, meaning if you're a 9, this will be happening, or this will be happening. People will be treating you this certain way. Guys
will be on
this
phone.
He said that. He was like, ma'am, if you were a 9, you wouldn't even be calling in tonight.
Right.
And, you know, I thought about it, like, that's deep, but I ain't seen no 9s calling in. I've seen many faces pop up.
If you do see a 9 come in, call in, it's going to be because she has mental problems.
If you see a 9 call in, I was just about to see this. I've seen people call in that may be 9s, but the rest of their life has brought them down some numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't be a 9 in looks and then have 4 kids by 2 men and be 40. Oh, no, ma'am. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because he's looking at this as, what's a high value man going to see in you and going to look and want to come get, right? And this is what he told her. He's like, ma'am, the problem is women don't know how to judge themselves. You're unrealistic. He said, yeah, I understand you think you're perfect. So, yeah, you want to say you're a 9, but you're not. He said, you're cute. You know, he's like, you're a 6. You're cute. You're cute. You're pretty. You can be made up a little better, whatever, when you put some stuff on, whatever. He's like, you're a 6. He said, if you're a 9, you wouldn't be calling in. If you're a 9, you would be a model somewhere. People would be walking up asking you this. And she was like, well, I used to model. She said, I forgot what it's called. She basically saying she used to be a model, like on the magazine cover. He's like, yeah, but not your whole body. He's like, you know what? Just never mind. You know, we're not gonna go there. Because he ended up asking her height and then her dress size. And I think she said she was 5'2", dress size. I think 8. She might have said 8.
8, yeah.
But see, he knows how these numbers work in proportion to your height and size, because he's an image consultant. This is what he does. You know what I'm saying? See, outside of this, he still does image consultant work.
Right.
People can look on his site, his Patreon, whatever, call him to get counseling, to talk to him about whatever, or to help him get their closet right or whatever. You know what I mean? So he's like, okay, how much you weigh? I think she said she was 152. Does that sound right? 152. So he's just like,
he's like, you all right? Because
okay.
She's a nurse. So
right. He's like, okay. But I mean, that just brings up the point. I mean, so he's like, ma'am, where do you think a man making $150,000 a year? This is where the nail comes in the coffin. If 9% of men are making $150,000 a year, you and everybody else out here wants a man making this much money. Why would he come pick a 35-year-old woman that weighs 152 pounds, 5'2", and has 2 kids from another man? Close to the age that you don't even know if you can safely have his kids. Why would he choose you when he can go out here and find a 25-year-old? You know, and that's the stuff they really don't want to hear, or they don't want to hear that and don't want to be told that it's not possible.
Well, most of them calling in, I'm assuming, is in that 35 to 40 range.
I mean, they're all over the place now. Sometimes they call in younger and don't have good sense or whatever. You know, some people call in and it almost seem like they're trolling the stuff they say. But some people are serious. Like, okay, this is what I would like. You know, and I mean, I like to see them call in. I'm glad they do. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of guys that will call in back in the day who, when he put them in a place, as far as being like, hold on, let me be realistic to you. Just because you're dealing drugs and stuff don't mean nothing. Just because you think you got a little money,
Right?
You're living at home with your mom, da 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 da. What are you talking about? And they're like, oh, you see what I mean? I mean, that's why I say guys are the same way.
Now that you say that, I seen something that was like an interesting topic to me. It says that girls won't date a guy. I don't know if these were the exact words, but this is what they were saying. They won't date a guy that lives at home with his mama, but they'll turn around and date a guy that lives at home with his wife or his girlfriend. And I thought that was very interesting because basically, you know, the replies back again went to the money because they were like, well, if he lives with his girlfriend or his wife, he's probably taking care of the house, so he has money. But if he lives with his mama, then he's broke.
Right. She's probably taking care of
And again, the thought process was all about the money. Nothing to do with him living with somebody else for real. It was all about the money. And I just thought that was interesting.
Well, I've seen that. I've heard about it before. And a lot of women that want to date men that are married, they do it for one or two reasons. And one of the biggest reasons I see is they're not really looking to be tied down, but they do want the financial support. And so it's like, hey, if you're married, you can't demand much of my time. You see, if I go get the guy, whether he live alone or not, he wants to date. He wants to text me all day. He's like, hey, what you doing? Let's go out. Let's do this, this, this. That guy over there is married. He can't even demand much of my time. I'll see him when I see him or when I can. But hey, I need some money. Let me get this money. You know what I mean? And I can still be a boss. I can still work on my business. Or have me a couple of married guys like that getting a check. You see what I'm saying? So, but it's, I mean, to me, it still goes back, you know, it goes back to the mindset. What are they thinking about? What it is they want, you know, what they're trying to do.
Another reason is because, like he would say, the people, high value men, the 9%ers, are most likely going to be married already. So the women who got out there and discovered that, I'm like, okay, the one I want is already taken, so I'm gonna get him, but I ain't gonna like have him. And it's like two birds with one stone. Like you said, he doesn't come in there all the time because they're not ready for that yet anyway. But they are getting that person that they want when they do have the time. So I'm definitely not condoning all of that, but yeah, that's probably what they're thinking about.
That's another thing to really think about is like, are women purposely sharing men out here?
I mean, it's the only way. Like I constantly keep telling every girl.
But I said purposely, not just. I mean, I know it happens, and it's like, oh, I didn't know. That's different than.
I doubt it's on purpose.
That's differently than I know you got a woman, but I'm trying to get in where I fit in.
I doubt it's on purpose.
I mean, I feel
you sound like Gene. I think Gene got a different perspective.
I do. You know what I'm saying? I know there's women. I know there's women that the guys lied to and said, "Oh, I'm single." How long does that work though? Like, how long can you not go to his house? You can't call after a certain time. I'm not spending time on you.
How long can he put a cover over the woman's eyes?
Right.
It depends on how busy she is. Dude, I feel like that can happen so easily. If she got a job and some kids, man, people are calling into Kevin's show like, we've been dating like a couple of years, and then I found out he was married. Oh my! He's like, what?
Well, even the nurse that happened.
Or he lived with the nurse. What?
Even the nurse said that since she got divorced, she had 2 proposals. So by a physician and by an accountant. She said the accountant she found out was cheating on her.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What do you think about that, Doony?
Like I said, I mean, just to me, like, you know, most of the time,
there'll be a whole topic is cheating.
Okay,
why we think they cheat?
Listen to this. How can a man cheat without the woman? That's the way I look at it.
What do you mean without the woman? You mean without the other woman?
Right. Like she has to be opening her legs. Right. So I'm taking it as
That don't mean she knows everything.
right, but the percentage to me is very low that don't know or didn't find out. You're talking about a 2-year window. That's ridiculous to me. I feel like people should be smarter than that. If they're not, I know.
It depends on what kind of cheating you're talking about.
It's 2021.
Like dating.
People are dating across the internet.
Right, and
that's
what I was just about to say. The dating is
so it's easy for a person here to be dating someone 4 hours away and be like, yeah, but that's my man. That gives him a lot of time to cover tracks, set up a story, do what he needs to do when he gets ready to go meet her.
I give you that.
And to be like, oh,
the dating seems to be where that window is because you'll say you're dating somebody for a full year, but you might have only seen them 4 times out that year.
And he'd be talking to him like, wait, you got a long distance relationship? Yeah, man, that don't count. That's not the same.
Right.
But see, in a woman's head, it counts. I mean, guys too. There's guys they're in a little shell, in a little bubble, and they're like, oh, I got me one. May not have even really seen her. It's not like a FaceTime call where we really, you see a profile picture or whatever pictures may be shown.
Right.
Unless they're letting you all into their social media and stuff. You do a lot of posting there. But it's easy to just basically show bits and pieces of your life. You know what I mean? People do it all the time. People have social media accounts and don't have their kids on there. They're like, no, I'm protecting myself. So there's guys who may ask or wonder, I wonder if she got any kids. But then he may feel like, no, I don't want to ask that. Don't make it seem too soon or too pushy, whatever. Before you know it, you may be 6 months in, like, whoa, what's that I heard? You got a kid?
Yeah, but if you're 6 months in, to me, it's like you're not in a real relationship. A real relationship, you would be able to ask that with no problem. Like, hey, what's going on? I got some questions. I mean, this is, again, I guess it's kind of like what you said, Kevin Samuel said, dating with a purpose.
Right, it's a purpose.
And if you're not doing that, you know what I'm saying? And to me, and that's where, again, we have the split because people are not dating for looking for marriage or looking for love. They're just dating to get whatever they can get.
But would you agree that a woman, Darren's got a daughter. Darren, don't you think your daughter, if she's out here dating with intention and purpose, and she's thinking she's finding good men that she may want to be with for a long-term lifetime, don't you think she should be bringing them to you for you to vet them?
Yeah.
How is that happening if people don't even have good relationships with their fathers? Sometimes it may even because of the father. It's just the fact that the father wasn't there in this household. And so they never got to talk to the dad to get the dad's side of the story. Or they may just assume he was a certain way because he wasn't at home. So forget him, I don't need him. Or I don't have to talk to my dad about anything because I'm a strong woman. My mom raised me to be a strong woman. You see what I mean?
Right.
So there's nobody that they may not even have anybody that they're talking to about the whole process. You know who they're talking to? Their friends.
Right.
And it'd be the ignorant friends who don't really have any experience or don't know better that'd be saying, yeah, you need to do this or do that. How many times single friends be telling the girl they need to leave their relationship? Ain't no way I'd put up with that. Hold on, but you single.
Come out here and be miserable with me.
Right.
Instead of working on it.
But the unqualified be giving the people that's more qualified advice, really.
Yeah. I mean, but that's because deep down inside, most people want to do what they're doing. Like you want to party, you want to be, I feel like sometimes I listen to some married women and I can hear what they're saying. And basically what they're saying is they miss that part of life. But really what I think they're saying is that drama. Like they're used to being able to talk about, let me tell you about Tim. And let me tell you, now all they got is Darren. And they got this one guy they're going to talk about. And your homegirls have already heard everything they could hear about him. So now they have nothing else to talk about. Yeah, it's more like, because now it's this new dude. Now they're talking about his size, what he looks like, where he lives, how much money.
That's what happens when you age.
You're on a boring path now. So your life seems boring.
Well, you got your 20s where you're doing a party, and 30s where you might get married and start having kids.
Yeah, but 40s and then 20, right?
It's funny you said the word boring, because Kevin Samuel says that a lot too. He's like, man, well, why do you want to be married? He's like, a marriage is boring. He's like, don't you understand that's boring? He said, everybody's saying marriage, but I don't know if y'all really understand what comes with that. That is boring. Or why do you want to date a high value man? Do you understand you may have to share him? You know how many high value men have secretaries or women on the books just because, they doing what they doing with them and they're writing it off. They got a cost already for that. You know what I mean?
I mean, women don't think about none
Darren
of that.
said that's crazy.
They don't think about none of that. They come in, their credit's bad. They already in debt. buying clothes, heels, all that.
I already know what you're about to say.
Then they want you to take them out.
Save them.
That's basically what you're doing. Are you not saving them? What are you doing?
How you gonna make a woman think that you're saving them when she's in her mind she's a boss and she's got whatever degree, she's making whatever money.
Some of them know they didn't need to be saved.
Yeah, let me
exclude
the high value woman, the one that's making. I'm talking about the basic one. You know, it'd be the ones that's making 40, but want the one that's making 150.
So you just said something there when you said the high value woman making a lot of money. Because when Kevin defines a high value woman, it has nothing to do with money. He's like, how feminine are you? How fit are you? And how disciplined are you? You know, how non-stressful are you? You know what I mean? He's like, that's what a man wants.
Right.
He's like, and any woman that's fit, he knows she's disciplined. You got a workout routine, you stick to it. You eat right, you stick to it. You care about this and have been doing it a long time. Not no out of shape person who's like, I'm going to do it. Because we've been doing this, you've been saying you're going to do this how long? You know what I mean? Right. We all do that, right? Mm-hmm. People that aren't perfect about it, who's made it a habit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So for a woman, I don't really think they understands that means as much as it does, as opposed to, well, my mom told me to get this degree and all this stuff. So yeah, I'm here. I've got this degree.
They don't have to do all that. They see these other girls getting these surgeries. They'll never get old. They'll never really be fat. They just get another tummy tuck. They're moving around here. This is their life. This is what they do all day, and hope they're gonna get you, the one that saved them, to pay for it.
You think so?
No,
guaranteed.
It ain't happening.
Not you specifically.
No, I'm saying even with men in general, it ain't happening. Because
what do you mean? You know how many girls are going to Brazil, coming back
on their dime? Not no high value man getting them to pay for that.
Not the high value man. I'm talking about the basic man is paying for that.
The basic man can't afford that. If we go look at the average man and what they're making, ain't no man making 40 to 60 a year saying, let me fly you out. I mean, what you going to send her to Mexico to a backyard surgery?
That's where they're going. You must not have seen the videos of these girls coming back on these planes. They haven't even healed yet because they didn't have enough money to stay at the hotels where they were at, like Brazil and these places.
But I feel like that's anecdotal, right? I feel like we see them. But for every one that does that, there's 20 sitting here wishing they could do it. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Look at the masses. But there's 20 that's wishing they can do it are not working out either.
Oh, yeah. I'm not saying they are. But they all are sitting there wishing, like, I wish I had a man. I'm going to do it. It's like it's a good thought to do this, to get right, to get disciplined and do all this stuff. But then by the end of the day, I got a couple other friends that's just like me, and we're all like, girl, you don't need that. They better take you how you are. You a queen, and you are this, and this. And so they're like, what Darren?
Oh, yeah, that's one thing that's been happening lately.
That's all over the place.
Lately.
I'm just saying in the last several years, you know, you got the outrage of super skinny model. We know that is not realistic. But then, you know, the typical model, you know, gets a little thicker where it's real healthy average. And now it's going over to the other side. It's like,
you talking about the Lizzos?
I mean, whoever you want to call it.
Oh, you didn't want to say
like, yeah, take me as I am type of thing. It's like, wait a minute now.
Yeah, I mean, but we can't say that, right? Like, as a dude, they want us in shape. I mean, we can say that if we had money, basically.
I feel you should be able to say it, like, whether you got money or not.
Can't. That's the problem.
You mean PC, right?
In society, you can't say because you're that size, nah, I'm straight. No, we really live in a society now where if a group of women were together and if the largest one came over there trying to talk to you, and if he's like, oh, no, I'm good, you really almost got to be concerned about what the other one's going to say. Oh, wait, he had a nerve to say what? Mm-hmm. He turned you down, what? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And you got to take all that into consideration.
But in the same voice.
But they can sit over and say, girl, I ain't talking to him how short he is.
Well, I was just about to say that. They're looking for the 6 foot tall dude. And if he ain't 6 foot, they walking by him.
6 foot, or if he ain't making 100,000. I've never heard so many women say they need a man making 100,000 in my life. Like they say that, like people say, I want to make $1 million. You know, $1 million really ain't much nowadays.
Right.
But people still be like, I want to make $1 million. I want to make $1 million. I want to make $1 million. Yeah. They like he need to be making at least 100,000.
And majority of them ain't making that themselves, and that's what's so strange to me.
But because in their head, they're about to be. And so many of them say, I got this or that degree. And so, yeah, I'm about to have my own like nail salon or my nail shop or my nail business, and I'm going to be a millionaire. And Kevin will laugh and like, what are you talking about? But see, that's when he's like, I'm trying to go to realistic outcomes, not the anecdotals. Not saying there's not someone out there who does have a nail salon that made that much money. Maybe they franchised it out. Maybe they had a bunch of people mix in that are doing massages and a bunch of other stuff or whatever. You know what I mean? Not saying that it's not absolutely possible across 1,000 people. But just because I have 1,000 people, 5 can do it, don't mean we should talk about it like that's the norm. You see what I mean?
Right.
But they talk about it like it's the norm. For everybody who's got something to say like that, like, well,
because
yeah,
they never had to do that, right? Let's just think about it.
He said accountability is the kryptonite.
Yeah, of course.
I just want to say, go ahead,
of course. Like, you know what I'm saying? But just think about it. Like right now, if you were a woman and you couldn't afford to eat, all you have to do is get on a site right now, a dating site, put a picture up too, and then there goes your meal. Voila. Just that easy. Literally just, and we're not talking about
I hear him calling in
the dimes.
I hear him calling.
I'm talking about the 5s. Literally, all they have to do is put their picture up there. Guy gonna hit him up and take him out to eat. And then after that, he's got to be able to pay for the whole check and any bottle she had and all that.
No, that's going to be next episode. We'll talk about it next episode.
I mean, yeah, it sounds like it.
All right, y'all. So we're going to wrap it up. So if you like what we're talking about, or even if you didn't like what we're talking about, comment below. Let us know on YouTube. If you're just listening to the audio app anyway, just please keep listening, tune in, follow us. Check us out on YouTube too. You might need to see our hands moving while we're talking. Y'all got anything to say? Anything you want to tell them before we cut out?
Word, brain, word.
Word, brain, word. You want to explain to them what we mean by that?
You know, word is kind of like for men, like gossip for the women. You know what I'm saying? Like we're talking about something that may have happened that day. So when you say, hey, you got some word, well, if you got a story to tell me in that story, I might can find something to pull out to talk about too, which would be word. So word brings word.
What about you, Smooth? You got anything you want to tell the good people out here?
No, be good.
Be good. All right, y'all. Till next time.
You've been listening to Word Brings Word. It's Bruce's passion to bring in dads and men to give them a place to talk like dads and men, or to just come and hang out and have a place to pass the time. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had fun. Make sure to like, rate, and review the show. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, hook up with us on YouTube at Word Brings Word and find Word Brings Word on all podcast channels. See you next time.